the reality is that while everything is not fixed in Europe, things do appear to be getting better. But you're saying apparently they're not good enough for the European banks, who should be raising a lot of fresh equity.
So,
but you're saying they're not.
I say seize the moment, because you don't know what's going to happen later on in Europe, and this is a good moment for European banks. Share prices are actually up about 30% since the lows that hit in November, so that's a good time. Investors have shown some willingness to invest in European banks. The Italian banks UniCredit did actually do a 7.5 billion euros rights issue, which is pretty good.
But that crushed their share price,
yeah,
right?
Sure, but no pain, no gain. But
okay, I'm just saying.
If you wait too long, then you won't be able to do it. And so if you don't do it, then what?
Wait, can we give our viewers a little bit of context?
Sure.
A few years ago, 2.5 years ago, all the U.S. banks, there was a stress test by the U.S. regulators, and then the U.S. banks went on several rounds of raising fresh equity capital. Europe had a series of stress tests. Nobody listened to them. Then they did them again. And they basically said to the European banks, you got to go out and raise some more equity. And so far, a grand total of one bank has done it.
Has done it. Exactly right. So the question is, what do you know that we don't? And the answer is nothing.
What do they know?
What do they know that we don't? And the answer is nothing. They're just trying to play for time. I get it. No CEO likes to sell shares at a heavy discount, as they would have to do if they want to raise capital in this environment. But the fact is, it's better to have it than not to have it. And shareholders will thank you for that if you do it now.
Right. Talk about the issue, though, that a lot of European banks have, that they have to raise capital as, in many cases, rights issues, and not as kind of equity issuances like a regular way equity like they do in the U.S. Do you think that impacts the CEO, the mind of the CEO? I mean, rights issues are very, very messy, aren't they?
They're messy because you got to ask, effectively, you got to ask each and every one of your shareholders, would you like to be diluted? Would you like for your shares to be worth less, right? And of course, they impact the earnings per share, because more shares impacts the earnings per shares. So it's a little more complicated. The reality is that European investors know all about rights issues, so there's no culture clash here, and everybody knows that that's how they raise money. They've done it in the past. Deutsche Bank did it when they wanted to do an acquisition a while back. No reason why they shouldn't do it right now. It's just a question of pride.
All right, now if I'm a European bank CEO, I gotta like the fact that I didn't listen to Francesco Guerrera earlier. I mean, if you were all the other banks except for UniCredit, or what you see right now, Greek Parliament passes this bill, great confidence, the value of the euro is rising, the share prices are rising. They were right not to listen to you earlier, weren't they?
I never said they had to raise before. I'm just saying they have to raise now.
It sounded from the piece that you were pointing out that, geez, they've really been late to the game here.
They haven't done it so far, and I think every day that passes, they are taking a risk here, because the window's open, everything seems fine. Now the European crisis has shown us that things can change very quickly, and once they change and the liquidity goes away, you can't do it. And then what?
Final question for you. We're going to just take Francesco's temperature on the situation in Europe, given the weekend's trials and tribulations in Athens. Mario Monti, your pal, was speaking over the weekend as well. How are you feeling about Europe? It kind of is going to pull through, isn't it?
I feel better than I used to.
Yeah.
Saying they're going to pull through, it's a bit of an overstatement. I think we still got a long way to go. A lot of hurdles on the way, and even if you resolve Greece, there's so many other hurdles on the way. I wouldn't.
So Angela Merkel's played this pretty well. Why don't you you could do a singing tribute on Valentine's Day tomorrow to Angela Merkel. Would you like to do that?
I would never do that.
You're not going to do that?
I would never do that. No, singing and Angela Merkel just don't go together.